Is it on? Okay, hey guys. Okay, so this is what you're doing. I have this assignment posted and due at 8 a.m. tomorrow, which means you have the rest of class to work on it, or do it for homework. Okay, so there's this chart that you will make a copy of in Google Classroom, and it's labeled Chapter 1 and 2 Character Analysis, Part 1. And this is something you'll fill out with just adjectives and words, okay? So there's different levels, and I'll show you guys a video on how to break this down a little bit of analyzing someone. Like, for example, if I'm analyzing myself, level 1, physical, I would say pretty. It's simple, okay? I'm gonna toot my own horn here, so I just say pretty. But if I go a little bit deeper to emotional, right, that's all a part of me, right? Emotionally, I'm typically fairly happy. So emotionally happy, right? And then psychologically, you could say, psychologically on a deeper level, overall with life, the reason why I might be happy is that I'm content with things. Okay, I'm content with the way life is going. It's because I feel grateful. So content would be a great word. Now, on the other end, I could also, because I'm not a two-dimensional person, I could also have other things. I'm not just happy and content all the time, right? There's multiple layers, just like with Tom, Nick, Daisy, and all of them. So for myself, I could still put pretty here, right? But emotionally, sometimes I can be melancholy. Don't know what that means? That means kind of down, okay? So I can be down at times and kind of sad about certain things, and I kind of withdraw, right? So melancholy could be my emotional state. So think about the emotional state of the characters in The Great Gatsby. What are they typically like? What have they shown so far? They might be happy and melancholy, both, because they're not two-dimensional people. Kind of like how Nick is overall a pretty average guy. You could put some words to that. But you could also say that he is not very strong and doesn't really stand up for things, like based on what we read yesterday, right? Like he was with Tom the whole time that he was with his mistress, all of that. So you can have multiple emotional things here. So psychologically, if I am melancholy, you could also say that I am kind of a depressed person at times, okay? So see how it breaks down the levels and it goes slightly deeper, more about internally? I want you to do that with the characters. So keep the video going. If you go to the next slide, here is some examples. And you might not know that the description to all of these words, this is a thesaurus, by the way, and you guys will be able to use it. If you're at home, there's a thesaurus online. Okay, so physical, you have beautiful, decrepit, sorry. That means like just falling apart. Delicate, emaciated, frail, graceful, handsome, sickly. Who would you maybe call sickly, the character that we've met so far, who had the least awesome description of an appearance? We met him yesterday.
I wasn't here.
Oh, George.
George Wilson. He was not described as any of these things. It was one, sickly, unkempt, that sort of thing. Okay, so emotional, confused. I can think of a character who seems a little bit confused. Yeah, empathetic, happy, kind, sad, shocked. So this is like their overall demeanor, right? Just emotionally. Are they supportive? More sad? Lots of different options for that. Then psychologically, this is more about like who they are in their core, from what we've seen so far. Again, like we read the first 2 chapters, but you can kind of dive in a little bit. So antagonistic, y'all know what the antagonist is in a story?
Good guy.
That's like the
No,
bad
guy.
guy, or the negative person dragging things down. So antagonistic could also just mean like more selfishly driven. Driven is in there. Clever, clear-minded, someone who has like is more maybe supportive and maybe graceful. They also maybe in their core are a little more clear-minded on things. Do you see how it kind of builds and goes a little deeper each time? So these are some examples. And there is a video that I'll show you part of to help. And you're gonna do this with the characters you've met so far.
Can we use those words too?
Yeah. And I'm also going to show you how you can find words that fit your vocabulary better by using a thesaurus. So some of these words you might not know as much, but. Okay, this is an explanation from a teacher in Florida, and he breaks this concept down.
Presenting Felix Varela, Senior.
I'll turn it up too.
And like I said, we are going to be talking about characters, and I don't want any of you to think that this is some new foreign subject. We're laying the foundation, and as you can tell, we're going to start with things that are very familiar to you. We're going to talk about the aspects of a character to analyze. When we talk about characterization, what exactly do we mean by that? And then we're going to get into the words that we use to describe characters. We're going to be building vocabulary throughout this lesson. So the first thing we said we would discuss are these aspects of characterization. What do I mean by that? Well, when we first encounter a character in a book, when you open a novel, when you open a short story for the first time, and you see a character's name, this person is essentially a stick figure. You don't know anything about them. They're not your best friend yet. As you start to delve into the reading, you're going to see how these characters feel. And you're going to start to realize how these characters think. And these are the aspects of characterization. The physical, emotional, and psychological states of mind of characters make up what we're going to be calling characterization.
So we're going to do it.
Once we delve deeply into these and we start talking about the function of the characterization, which we're going to do in later videos, then you're going to start getting a more total composite of each character. So if we understand the three aspects of characterization, what we got to talk about next is how do we describe these aspects? And I want to share this with you. And here's some adjectives, and that's the key phrase there, okay, adjective. We want to build our adjective capacity because the more words we know to attribute to characterization, the more we're going to reach, the closer we're going to get to our goal, which is precision. We want to be as precise as possible when we talk about these characters. I want you to see that these words are not meant to be housed in these three categories exclusively. You might see, for example, the word confused is there under emotional and psychological. I've done that on purpose, so you can see that we can use these words throughout the three aspects, but we must think of the three aspects. I also want you to know that these are not the most sophisticated words. No one said that for you to be successful in your analysis of literature, you have to use these words that nobody can understand. As a matter of fact, it's when we use language that is understood by all, as long as that language is precise, that we're really going to captivate our audience with our analysis. So let's practice. You know, we can think of a character, a friend, or a family member, but I'm actually going to encourage you to think of a friend or a family member right now because you know
this in your mind
right best. So go ahead and write that person's name down. And I'm going to give you a cheat sheet. I'm going to give you the words that we looked at in the previous slide. And I want you to take some time. You can go ahead and pause this video if you'd like and populate different adjectives surrounding this character so that you can.
Okay, so actually, you might be thinking of a person in your mind that you could do this with, but actually shift gears and think about a character from the book so far. So I wanted to do something with y'all to help show you the options you have. So for example, frail. Don't know what frail means per se? Okay, so this is what I want you to do. Like, to expand your vocabulary and the way you describe characters, like, I think sometimes we can really limit ourselves to saying, like, beautiful, ugly, happy, sad. You know, like, we kind of stay in there. So I want us to go a little deeper into it. So if I look up the word frail, again, you can do this online too, type in thesaurus.com. If I look here, it says fragile, delicate, weak, feeble, brittle, breakable, okay? And then it has an example of a sentence. The opposite, it also gives you the antonyms, strong, sturdy, tough. Okay, you could easily choose a character from The Great Gatsby that you could probably put fragile with versus strong, sturdy, tough, because we have some interesting characters going. Okay, and then maybe one of you guys choose one of these words, and I'll look that up real quick. Also, I'm going to extend the due date on this because I know we're going to run out of time in this class period.
About 2 minutes.
All right, cool, thank you. Let's do one more word from either of these sides. So choose one. Okay, sympathetic. Yeah, that's a good one. Sympathetic. And these are going to be in here for you to use. Okay. So there's not sympathetic, but there is sympathy, which you've probably heard of. Sympathetic would just be the word describing someone who has sympathy. It says understanding. We know that there's probably some characters who are a little more understanding in The Great Gatsby so far than others. Concern, compassion, support. The opposite would be indifference, aloofness, insensitivity, and disinterest. Okay, so those are some ideas for you. You're gonna do this with the characters in the character chart. The only one not included is Gatsby. I'll pull it up real quick, and then you're gonna submit it to Google Classroom by tomorrow. Tomorrow's the 30-minute day. So if you go back here, you can see what it looks like, and this assignment is posted. Let's go here. Looks like this. So see, you'll be building it as you go with those different words.